What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with a video on the Dragonflight Alpha, and we are going to be taking a look at the revised Paladin and Retribution talents. There has not been too many updates, but I decided that today I would do my criticism of the tree because I'm changing my opinion. At the moment, I don't think the tree is as exciting as I initially thought, and we're going to get into that at a talent by talent level. So I'm going to go through and slowly craft what I think would be the ultimate meta build, which is going to be grabbing Freedom. That's cool. Hammer of Wrath, we get baseline. I'm going to pick up our seals. So again, immediately the first four talents are not really choices, right? You don't have any choice between these. You grab Blinding Light because you have to get Aura of Resolved in order to get Blinding Light, which is going to be pretty mandatory in PvP, if not, absolutely mandatory in PvP. And PvE, having another CC is pretty insane. They did, thankfully, move Cleanse Toxins up 2 tiers and replaced it with Holy Aegis down here. They swapped the position, so it's easier to access Cleanse Toxins, which is really nice. We're going to pick up Fist of Justice here, Seal of Alacrity, grab our Steed. And here's where I'm getting a little conflicted vibes right here. Now, Steed is not good in itself. Thankfully, they did lower the cooldown on it back down to 45 seconds. We can grab Cavalier. That's probably what I'm going to take. But having 3, potentially 4 talent points, because you'd have to pick up Steed, Cavalier, and then 2 into Seasoned Warhorse, for Steed to just do what it does on live with just 1 Cavalier talent point is kind of It doesn't feel that exciting. None of these talent points are that exciting, to be honest, and I'm just really not big fan of Steed because of the fact that it does not remove or suppress slows or roots, so it requires you to use Freedom and then Steed. So yeah, not a huge fan of this. How I would solve it would be completely reworking rep mobility, but if they really wanted to keep Steed, off global and suppresses slows. Maybe it doesn't have to break roots, but just at least suppressing slows would be really cool. After this, I would pick up my Cleanse Toxins because that's, it's a piece of the ret kit that I missed when I was doing a lot of duels on the alpha, so I probably will sit this baseline. Next, I'm going to talk about the talents on the left side of the tree, and I was really not a fan of the left side of the tree in the beginning, and I still am not. So Golden Path, Seal of Mercy, and Judgment of Light are all not only really weak right now, but they're not fun. They're all passive related talents to an ability that I already do not enjoy, which is Consecration. I do not enjoy Consecration as a damage rotational ability. It is undertuned, and even if it was tuned up, I don't think I would have any more fun with it than I am currently. Ways that I enjoy doing my AoE damage is in big burst rotations. Divine Storm is cool, but having a very, very low value Consecration that roots yourself in place essentially, or roots them, like you would have to make sure the tank is not pulling the mobs and moving them, or you would have to make sure that your enemy is not moving out of your Consecration in PvP, which is pretty much never the case. People can just simply walk away. But yes, so these are not ideal. Golden Path would require you to sit inside your Consecration. As a Red Paladin, you're never going to want to do that. You're already restricted enough as it is with your mobility. It's just not going to be ideal. Seal of Mercy, it is what it is. It's just a modifier for Golden Path. I don't think it's great either. Judgment of Light, boring. Doesn't matter if it's effective or not. It's just simply boring. Your attacks are going to cause your judged target to heal you a little bit. It's boring. Holy Aegis, passive crit and armor. Seems okay. You can get 4% crit right here, but again, another passive talent. Now I'm going to get back into the rest of the talents in this row. So Avenging Wrath, understandable that we have to pick up some of our baseline abilities from the talent tree. That is fine. Seal of the Templar. I actually am a huge fan of Seal of the Templar, so I will be taking Seal of the Templar and Rebuke. Turn Evil is going to be situational. It does suck that it's not basically instant cast anymore because of the conduit that we're going to lose from Shadowlands. So even if we do have situational uses for it in PvP, I probably don't see myself picking it up as it's a 1.4% second cast time. So if they do want this to be of value, even in situational uses, drop the cast time to half a second or something like that, or just make it instant cast like it used to be with the glyph. After that, Seal of Reprisal. It's going to be hard to skip out on 20% damage increase on Templar's Verdict, Divine Storm, and Execution Sentence, so we're going to go ahead and take Seal of Reprisal. Judgment right here. Just upgrading Judgment to baseline. It is what it is. We had to do that while leveling up in Shadowlands anyway. Judgment had separate ranks, and I believe one of the ranks was granting it Holy Power, and the other rank was granting it the 25% damage increase, so that's fine. Next, we're going to go over and pick up Blessing of Sacrifice. Of course, Sacrifice is really good in PvP, and we can pick up one of the two talents right here. And this is the first situational tree that I do enjoy on the Paladin tree. It's Recompense versus Sacrifice of the Just. Both will have solid situational uses, I believe. And again, this is just an interesting choice node. So kudos to Blizzard. This is the first one on the red tree that I do believe is a good choice. Next, we're going to pick up Blessing of Protection. And then right here, we have Divine Purpose or Holy Avenger. Now, red flags right here. Why is Holy Avenger still in the game? And why is it 3-minute cooldown? Holy Avenger has not been taken in a very, 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 very long time. And when it was taken back in the day, it was when Crusade was good. Crusade is not good on live, and Crusade is currently not good on beta, and Crusade is nerfed in PvP. So we will never take Holy Avenger. This is something I want to see gone from the game or reworked. You could potentially lower it to a 2-minute cooldown, or maybe a 1-minute cooldown with a 10-second duration. But at the moment, guys, there's no choice on this node. It's going to be Divine Purpose every single time. So yeah, big red flag right here. Hopefully this gets looked at. And there's actually a few of these types of choice nodes that are just not good in the Retribution tree that we'll go over later. Obscuracy, going to pick this up at some point. Not hugely exciting. 2% speed, 2% avoidance, but you know, that's a solid passive. Cool, we get some speed. I'm going to go ahead and pick up Recompense because I figure I'll take that in PvP. Seems cool. We're going to grab Avenging Wrath rank 2. And before everyone has a hissy fit over the fact that we have to talent into Wings so many times, actually, back in the day, we did have to drop the cooldown from Wings from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. So it's kind of understandable. But, you know, we will get into where there are too many Avenging Wrath talents in the future. Starting off with this one right here, Seal of Might, increasing your damage during your Wings. Guys, we already have so many ways to passively increase our damage. Maybe we could get something more interesting than just passive damage increase right here. Here is another interesting choice node, Spell Warding versus Improved Bop. You know, these are cool. So when you're fighting a physical team, you're going to take Improved Bop. And when you're fighting a caster team, you can take Spell Warding. I'm a huge fan of Spell Warding coming to Retribution, as Ret currently does not have any passive mitigation versus spell damage. So Spell Warding is very welcome. I'm going to go ahead and grab that right there. Unbreakable Spirit, probably going to be baseline. Dropping the cooldown of Bubble is always a plus. Bubble is a very long defensive cooldown. And then down here, I would say sort of an interesting choice node, but I likely will be taking Sanctified Wrath for the most part in PvP. Longer Wings equals longer opportunity to deal damage in case you get crowd controlled. But I'm sure that Seraphim will have some uses, seeing as Sanctified Wrath no longer has that AoE damage component. If you want to go for absolute maximum single target burst, then Seraphim is still a viable choice. And I would prefer Seraphim over a talent such as Old Inquisition anyway, so that's pretty cool that it is still in the game. The next row, the next side on this tree, I absolutely do not like. I think it is both boring and weak at the moment. So Hallowed Ground, increasing Consecration damage by 10%. Currently, Consecration does like 70 to 80 damage per tick, so it's not that great. And I'm currently level 68 with a decent amount of mastery. And then this talent row right here is, in my opinion, a really, really, really absolutely boring talent row. Your Consecration flares up, deals a little bit of damage with Holy Power. Again, that means you have to be currently standing in the Consecration with hitting your enemies. This will never be taken in PvP, and this is probably not as bad in PvE, but again, it's just passive damage related to Consecration. Like, you're going to take Incandescence if it is tuned better than 10% consecration damage. If 10% consecration damage is tuned better than incandescence, you're just going to take hallowed ground. So this is going to be based on tuning, but also these are very boring talents in my opinion. Very boring talents. Touch of the Light, kind of interesting. It's passive though. It's very passive damage. So here we have a choice node of 2 passives. And if we don't go with the choice node, it's again passive damage increase. Kind of boring in my opinion. I'm going to go with Touch of the Light because we do have to make it down here to Seal the Crusader, where we have more passive damage. This one isn't as bad. It's tuned fairly well. 15% for 5 seconds is not that bad. That's going to be some spiky burst occasionally. But again, that's more passive damage. And then we have the Mad Paragon. So this is a pretty cool talent. It's a legendary returning from Shadowlands, and it also works on your Judgment now, not just your Hammer of Wraths. However, it does increase the damage by 10% of Wings and Judge, but it only increases the duration of Hammer of Wrath by 0.5 seconds, which is fine because we're having 2 abilities increase the duration now, so that is pretty cool. I'll briefly go over the other side of the tree here. So after Image, this is fairly interesting, and depending on how strong Word of Glory ends up being, I might actually take it. 30% additional healing for your teammates is decent in PvP. So, we'll pretend to pick this up. We'll go down to Aspiration of Divinity. Now, this gives... I like the idea, I like the concept behind giving Crusader Strike more of a purpose, as it's our weakest holy power generator. I think there are ways that we can make this a little more interesting, but at the moment, it's tough to test because Aspirations of Divinity does not currently stack above 1, so I can go 1 out of 3 and have the same effectiveness as going 3 out of 3. So we'll see if the stat increase is significant or not. But yeah, another kudos to Blizzard on this talent, getting experimental with making Crusader Strike more effective in your rotation. So I do like this talent. It is just unfortunate that we have to, that it does not have another connection. Maybe it could have a sideways connection from Avenging Wrath or down connection from Recompense. But I'm not a huge fan of being forced into taking a, either going this left side here or taking, being forced to take either sacrifice in a 1v1 scenario, which, we're not going to need, or going down through the left side here, which are not the greatest of talents. Next, I'm going to take a look at Seal of Clarity. As far as I could tell, I could not get Seal of Clarity to proc on the alpha, so I still can't really test it. But I'm assuming that when we do stack it up, it's going to have a 15% chance to reduce by 1 or a 5% chance to reduce by 3. It's kind of similar to Divine Purpose, right? Just free Word of Glories. I don't particularly see the need of this for Retribution, but it could be cool for Holy Paladin and for Prot Paladin. So maybe we can leave it in there. Again, not every choice has to be ideal for Ret. But getting down to Dusk and Dawn in Seal of Order is a little questionable because of these talents right here. And if these are scaled well for Ret, they could be decent. But unfortunately, it's just more passive damage. And in my opinion, it's just they're boring talents. Just passive boring talents. All right, so now let's get on to the Ret tree here. So I do have a decent amount of problems with the Ret tree, but I think it is going in the right direction. So with my build here, we pick up Blade of Justice, we pick up Art of War, Divine Storm. These are understandable talents that we would have to pick up. Followed by Timely Judgment. So we're going to drop the cooldown of our Judgment by 1 second. Improved Crusader Strike. Understandable that we do have to pick up another Crusader Strike. But there's a few talents that are related to Crusader Strike, but unlike some spells like Consecration, there aren't too many in the game. So if we count over here, we have Improved Crusader Strike, we have either Empyrean or Fires of Justice, and then back in the Paladin tree, we have Aspirations of Divinity. So there's not many talents in the Ret tree that are related to Crusader Strike. And I think there's actually room to increase the number of talents related to Crusader Strike. One idea that I thought would be really cool would be making Crusader Strike deal holy damage. So it would scale off our mastery, giving it a higher priority in the rotation. Maybe that could replace one of the talents over here, either Last Rites or Deemed Unworthy. There are a decent amount of passive talents that just, are fire and forget in the ret tree. So we have High Lord's Judgment. That's a passive damage increase for Judge. We have Last Rites, passive damage increase for Judge. We have Deemed Unworthy. That's a passive damage increase from Judgment. Although Deemed Unworthy is a little bit more interactive, since you could, in theory, time your third Judgment on a target to increase your burst damage. Those are 3 passive talents related to increasing your Judgment damage, and 3 is, in my opinion, too many, especially when we're picking up talents in the Paladin tree related to Judgment, so that'd be 4 Judgment talents. I don't know about that. That is, that's going to depend on someone's opinion, but in my opinion, too many passive related damage talents for Judgment. After that, we pick up Shield of Vengeance and Expurgation. Expurgation is an interesting talent to keep around for Retribution, but it conflicts with Exorcism, in my opinion. And now Exorcism I do want to get into before we dive into the middle of the tree. I'm going to talk about the left part of the tree here. So Exorcism in its current state is not playable, especially in PvP. It deals weak damage. It generates no holy power, and it doesn't particularly serve a purpose. Now, if they wanted Exorcism to be the damage over time of a Retribution Paladin, it's going to have to be scaled up, and it's most likely going to have to generate holy power, because you have to sacrifice generating holy power in order to press Exorcism. And although it is slightly interesting when it interacts with Consecration, that's just another ability that interacts with Consecration, which is not fun. Anything related to Consecration is just... I do not like it. I'm not a fan, and I think that this is going to be a reiterating thing around the Paladin talent trees, is just wiping Consecration from the trees. It's cool. It's a flavorful spell, but in theory, on paper, it doesn't work, because tanks are moving mobs out of AoE damaging packs. Players in PvP are always constantly moving, whether it's the ret dropping it and then running away, or it's someone's running out of Consecration damage. The damage of Consecration would have to be so massively overtuned in order for someone to drop it in PvP that it would probably be too overpowered to use in PvE. Now we have Calm Before the Storm. This is an interesting talent and concept in using Divine Storm to increase the damage of your Consecration. But again, that's related to Consecration. Not a fan. Consecrated Ground, increasing the radius of your Consecration. Not a fan. Maybe instead of Consecrated Ground, we could have something that attaches Consecration to the player. And when the player moves, the Consecration moves with the player. That'd be the one saving grace that Consecration could have in order to keep the current setup around. That would be neat. And then we have Long Arm of the Law. Returned, but unfortunately useless. You get slowed in PvP, and you won't even notice your Long Arm of the Law. I believe that players really, really want this ability around. I personally really want this ability around. I want this or Pursuit of Justice, but it does have to be at least doubled. Like 40% for maybe 3 seconds or 4 seconds. That'd be really cool. Think about this. When we did have Long Arm of the Law, we also had Double Freedom and Emancipate. So we had way, way more mobility than we currently do, and we had more ways to remove slows. So currently in Long Arm of the Law, as it stands, I would not sacrifice a talent point on this. It's just not worth. Now we get over to another node right here, which I really despise. I'm sorry. This is just my criticism of it. So rogues have a talent where they randomly generate a combo point sometimes off of auto attack crits. And I'm actually really not a fan of that talent. And I'm not a fan of that talent showing up for ret either in Inner Power. So every 10 seconds you gain 1 holy power. I like to time out my rotation to a T. I don't like randomly generating holy power, because then sometimes you're randomly going to overcap, or you're going to need an add-on to tell you the second before you're about to passively generate 1 holy power. So I'm not a fan of that. And then also not a fan of having holy power related to your Consecration, because I don't like the Consecration. That is why. Sanctification does not interest me in the slightest because of that. That is my opinion. Um, so we're kind of just forced into inner power in PvP. So this is a non-choice node for PvP. PvPers will only ever take inner power if for some reason the exorcism does get reworked or massively buffed and we have to take that, or Longer in the Law gets buffed, we will have to do inner power. Sanctification is just not going to cut it in PvP. Now I will go over the middle of the tree, which isn't as bad. We have some choice nodes. Path of Ruin is still currently bugged. I think it's mildly interesting, but again, we do kind of need Wake of Ashes to generate emergency holy power for Word of Glories. So probably not going to be taking Path of Ruin unless it does massive damage. And in theory, it could. Currently, it doesn't work with Judgment or Final Reckoning damage increases, but on paper it should because it is a holy power spender. And it should also be affected by Seal of Reprisal. So we will see as the bug fixes go out if Path of Ruin is going to be an interesting damage node. If it's not, if it doesn't end up scaling with Judgment or Final Reckoning, I will end up taking Ashes to Dust. This is basically our set piece from retail. We can actually pick up both set pieces from retail, so Ashes to Ashes and Ashes to Dust, which is neat. I really do like the fact that we can get those talents back because they are increases to our passive damage, our damage outside of wings, which is what Ret typically lacks. Now, the next talent node I'll go over right here is Truce Wake. Truce Wake is probably never going to be taken in PvP. It's just very, very weak. 10% of a Wake of Ashes is not that great. And actually, when it was 20, I believe it's like 27% with a 278 conduit, it's actually still not worth it in PvP. So dropping it down 17% to 10% is it's a no-go. So we don't have to worry about taking this in PvP. Maybe it depends on the situation. So I'm not a huge advocate of getting rid of this talent. In some cases, maybe it's cool in PvE. Consecrated Blade, a talent-related consecration. It is cool that you can get 2 consecrations down from your auto war proc and your passive consecration, but again, that's related to consecration, so therefore I think it is not good for the game. Not a fan of it. And I did make a consecration build a few videos back to just see how much damage we could pump out of it, and it's not fun in my opinion, and it's weak. So we'll see. If this gets massively buffed, we'll see, but I am a fan of getting rid of Consecrated Blade, Calm Before the Storm, Consecrated Ground, and reworking them into AoE damage talents regarding Divine Storm, or moving the Divine Storm talents that we have down here up to replace these, and then maybe changing the Tempest of the Lightbringer, like shifting it up to Consecrated Blade, and then putting a new talent down here regarding Crusader Strike, because Fires of Justice and Empyrean Power are Crusader Strike related abilities, and maybe this talent right here, we cap it off with Crusader Strike now deals holy damage. And that way we can get rid of the Consecrated Blade. And then these talents over here, we can maybe adjust them to become AoE Judgment talents rather than sticking Boundless Judgment on top of Zeal, which, at the moment, I believe Zeal is probably going to be taken in order to grab your Ashes to Ashes and your Ashes to Dust procs more frequently. I accidentally did click Boundless Judgment right here, but Boundless Judgment is kind of interesting, but it doesn't interact exactly how I hoped with Lawbringer, so it probably won't be taken in PvP. In PvE, it has situational uses. On the right side here, I know I did go over these when we were talking about the passives for Judgment, but just these could be changed or they could be left alone. But I'm just trying to point out how many passive talents that we have related to increasing our Judgment damage and our damage in total. Yeah, too many passives in my opinion. Now, the passives that are slightly more interesting are down here on this row, where we have Virtuous Command, Templeless Vindication, and Relentless Inquisitor. I really do like all 3 of these. Even though they are slightly nerfed compared to their Shadowlands versions. I do like them. This row is good. Execution Sentence returning in PvP is always welcome. I was a huge fan of this ability before it was nerfed in PvP, and it is still nerfed in PvP. However, if we grab Executioner's Will, we actually can increase its damage above a final verdict if we have the proper setup. So that is a plus. We get another ability back in PvP. Now for Hand of Hindrance, we can take this. That's cool. We actually don't necessarily need to because Law and Order does function without Hand of Hinderance. This node right here, Selfless Healer, Healing Hands. I figured this would be a choice node. That's pretty cool. I'm not so sure about the positioning. I kind of wish it was a little bit higher in the tree, but that's fine. Maybe we can... You know what? The positioning's fine. I changed my mind. Positioning's fine. It is what it is right there. And then we can grab Relentless Inquisitor, come down here, Vanguard's Momentum, get our final verdict. Something that is shocking to me that is still in the game is Justkar's Vengeance. This, just like the choice node over here, Incandescence and Touch of Light, and up here, where's it? Divine Purpose and Holy Avenger, and right here, Sanctification and Inner Power. I think the ret choice nodes are very poor. They're typically only one choice for PvP. All of them only have one choice for PvP, and in PvE, it's very, very, very situational choices. But guys, Justkar's Vengeance being back in the game, just get rid of it, honestly. You could just make this not a choice node. Or if you wanted to make a choice node, make this Divine Protection, and make Divine Protection work on magic damage. So we have a physical choice, and we have a magic damage choice. Because as it stands, Justkar's Vengeance will never be taken, as it is already never taken since Word of Glory made it back to the game. Let's proceed down to the bottom here. Divine Toll, currently pretty weak, as it no longer increases your mastery and no longer has Ringing Clarity. Divine Resonance, maybe instead of Divine Resonance being right here, we get Ringing Clarity down here. Would be neat. Yeah, Divine Toll just, in general, fairly weak right now. This whole talent tree, probably never going to take it, as Avenging Might was nerfed in PvP, and now it will only increase your crit by 15% whenever that build makes it to the alpha. As it stands, from a PvE perspective, it is boring, in my opinion, having to just pick up crit where we already passively get the crit from leveling up our wings. So that would have 1, 2, 3, 4 talents regarding wings. And all of them are passive. They don't your wings make your holy power generators come off cooldown X amount faster. That would be a cool build. I suppose that is sort of Crusade, because Crusade gives you haste. But again, Crusade got nerfed in PvP, so we'll never probably run Crusade, which kind of sucks. It is what it is. And then Liandrin's Fury, passive holy power generation. Not a fan of passive holy power generation. So maybe this is the talent that we could have, like your Crusader Strike recharges 30% faster, or your Blade of Justice recharges 30% faster. That would be a cool talent to have on Liandrin's Fury, rather than just passively gaining 1 holy power every 5 seconds. I do think the far left and the far right nodes are solid. It is why I'm currently taking them on the alpha. At the moment, we're not getting 4 charges of Hammer of Wrath with Vanguard's Momentum. It's currently only 2 charges, so we'll see if this stacks up to 4. It might not, and even if it doesn't, even if it's only an additional charge, I do really like the extra holy power damage done, and the extra charge of Vanquisher's, not Vanquisher's Hammer, the extra charge of Hammer of Wrath. That is a plus. And then final verdict, I was really hoping this would be not Shadowlands, coming from Shadowlands into Dragonflight Alpha, and it is here, so that is a really huge plus. It does feel weird that it is a capstone talent, so maybe we could swap Final Verdict and put it up here instead of Inner Power and Sanctification. Yeah, put it right here. That'd be cool, and then have something else new down here. And then Final Reckoning. That's cool that it made it back into the game. Ashes to Ashes, I do like that. So guys, all in all, I think the Paladin tree is going in the right direction. But I'd say about 50% of the talents I do not like, and they will just never be talented in PvP. I really, 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 really want to see Long Arm of the Law get buffed. So last 3 seconds for 40 or 50% increased movement speed, because Judgment has a longer cooldown than it did back in the day, and we no longer have Double Freedom or Emancipate to get us out of slows or roots. So there's no reason that it shouldn't, at minimum, do what it did in prior expansions. But yeah. That is about it for my critique of the Retribution talent tree and the Paladin talent tree here, guys. Let me know your thoughts, your comments. I do want to start the iteration on these talents, because I do feel like they do have a good chunk of work that will have to be done in order to get this ready for Dragonflight. All right, guys. Peace.